Ji, for a very elaborate introduction, and let me thank profusely our eminent, distinguished individuals from the field of nuclear energy. We have today speaker Mr. Bharadwaj. We have Dr. R.B. Grover. He is a member of Atomic Energy Commission, and we have Dr. Kakotkar, Anil Kakotkar. We were contemporary. He was in the atomic energy department and I was in the power group, and we worked almost for 5 years on many of the issues concerning nuclear power, the tariff of nuclear power, the fuel for nuclear power, growth of nuclear power, amendment to the Atomic Energy Act, and so on and so forth. So I think we have a distinguished group from the nuclear field. We have this equally distinguished group from other sectors of energy. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we have a very distinguished participant today, Mr. Abul Kalam Azad. He was the Energy Secretary and he was Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister for many years in Bangladesh. And he is also setting up a similar organization in Bangladesh Energy Forum. Let me say that nuclear power has been recognized as one of the important sources for energy in India, not now, long back. In fact, it has more than 50 years of history. Right in the initial days after our independence, very few years after independence, it was recognized that this is something which should be given due importance. And it started, as I said, more than 50 years ago. Atomic Energy Act 1962 became one of the most important policy documents which should guide the future of how nuclear energy should be deployed in Indian context. The point is that we have more than 50 years of experience and very successful experience. Today we have almost 7,000 megawatts, 6,780 megawatt of capacity. And I was writing when we were drafting the electricity policy draft, it was prepared by the Ministry of Power Committee, and we had to give comments. We had a seminar on this subject, and there we have pointed out that though we have reached 6,780 megawatt now, but in next 10 years, maybe we will have 15,000 megawatt more. So some of the things which have been bothering us, that in spite of so many years of background and so successful background, very well done. We had problem of fuel. When I joined that time, it was one of the critical factors. Problem of fuel is resolved, and therefore our plant load factor nowadays is much better than what it used to be earlier. But then our growth has to be a critical mass. Today, for many years, we have hovered around about 2%. 2% of the total capacity of the country is contributed by nuclear, because we have almost 384,000 megawatt of capacity today. And as I said, we have 6,780 megawatt from the nuclear. And in 10 years' time, if 15,000 megawatt more is added, maybe we might improve to 3% plus. But the question is that should nuclear remain there, or should it move above that low profile of plus minus 2% or much bigger? In today's context, again, when we have so much of talk about climate change, and we have been discussing in almost every seminars that we had on nuclear power, that it has to be recognized, it has to be recognized that it is a zero carbon energy source. It's like other renewable, and therefore it should be accepted and welcome in that fashion, and should be given that importance that it is also like a renewable energy. And therefore we should, and in today's discussion of climate change globally, every day you see every major magazines, even last two issues of Economist has covered very extensively on climate change disasters that are happening. So therefore, in recent years, health, safety and environment, they are being taken as an integrated concept. Health, safety and environment. And it very well fits it well with what we are doing to focus on safety related issues in the nuclear field. Nuclear power and safety debate. Why and why not? These are the issues. like Mr. Bambani said, that we have to give narrative, we have to convince our people why there should be debate on safety for nuclear, and why should there not be debate for safety in the nuclear power. And that is the subject we are discussing. Environment is a common issue to all industries, but somehow globally it has emerged to be a much deeper and much larger issue in the context of development of nuclear power. The moment in any country nuclear power is to be set up, the whole issue is focused in a different fashion. Should it be there? Should this size of nuclear power be there? What happens to the population? And so on and so forth. It continues, this discussion continues. And therefore, it is necessary that this type of seminars are organized, and we are able to give a narrative and sort of make people aware, bring about awareness in the society that this is a clean energy source and that it should be encouraged. It is unique in many ways because in all other cases of environment, we have various many factors, but where people get a little concerned is the radiation. And the radiation related issues make the development of nuclear power a little differently perceived by all who deal with this subject, all who are concerned with the subject, or not consequences. And it is there where all our scientists, engineers, and regulatory boards, they are concerned that in what way, right from the design stage to the construction stage, to operation stage, to regulatory aspects, everywhere necessary care has to be taken. Here is a case where we can't take any chance. It's a zero error situation. But of course, certain degree of exposure for the employees, and more importantly, likely exposure to others. Of course, India has been having a very successful experience of running these plants very well. Fortunately, we did not have any major problems, but somehow Chernobyl or Fukushima type of accidents happen, and they happen once in a while. They create a very lasting effect and in global context. And therefore, everybody starts thinking that what should we do? What should the country do? And a resistance builds up. I think it is necessary that we should have proper advocacy, discussions like this. I mean, today's discussion on safety was also a step to all of us, that what is the emerging situation about the likely impact of development of nuclear power, the likely problems with regard to health, safety, and environment, the solutions that we are deploying, the solution we are thinking in the future to deploy, what type of regulatory safeguards we are doing, what is the mechanism to review these safeguards, what is the mechanism to enforce these safeguards. Therefore, a proper narrative is created, proper awareness program is developed so that people become more comfortable. So far as we professionals are concerned, energy people, we love nuclear, we like nuclear, we want nuclear to grow as much as possible. But we have to make people aware, the political group we have to make aware, the society group we have to make aware so that it develops. And of course, our own capability, that is not the subject we are discussing today, our own capability to improve on our project management right from the stage of procurement to construction to supervision to commission, that should improve. I will very much like every one of us will like that nuclear acquires a reasonable proportion in our profile, particularly in the context of development of solar capacity. That is going to be almost 500,000 megawatt 10, 12 years down the line. And therefore, this would provide a good backup in evenings, besides the other backups that we are trying to deploy. So with these words, I will come back again when we close this discussion after listening to these eminent speakers today and the question answer. Thank you very much, and I welcome all of you. Thanks a lot. It is impossible because it is such a comprehensive discussion today. I have been benefited a lot, and I am sure almost all the participants would have been similarly benefited immensely, because Mr. Bharadwaj traced the development on safety aspects, on design aspects, on how the whole progress has happened right from the beginning of the nuclear energy and nuclear power, not only in India, but anywhere in the world. And that gave a sequential advancement of how things have been progressing. One message is very clear that while people have perception that nuclear power is a bit risky, it has problem of exposure of radiation, exposure to radiation, etc., etc. But I think the three major accidents that he traced, 3 Mile Island of USA 79, Chernobyl of 1986 US, Japan 2011. In all these accidents, the casualties have been either not there, happen in all factories, environmental problems happen, safety problems happen in all factories. Somehow, in case of nuclear, the perception is different, and whenever a new nuclear power plant is proposed, you have different type of resistance, different type of apprehensions. I think policy planners, energy people like us, all of us, have not been able to create the right narrative and make people aware. Like even today, what you said, that be in control. Plant is damaged, other consequences may have happened. Like Mr. Verma said about some fire and all that, I think every other day in thermal power stations, coal-based thermal power stations, major fires happen. So I mean, those are the things. But what makes nuclear power distinct from others is the radiation. And there, I think one of the last replies that Mr. Bharadwaj gave, that slowly and slowly you have advanced to a point that extent of exposure to the employees is much, much less, even as compared to less as compared to some of the CT scan that is happening. It used to be much more earlier, and now it is much less. These are the things which are not known to people. They must be made aware. Then I think you made a point about SMR, both of you. I mean, we had a session only on SMR some time back. And today what we are getting is that we need to think about it, pause a bit and think about it, rather than welcoming, embracing it wholeheartedly so quickly. Mr. Bharadwaj, you ended up with a slide of Mr. Kakotkar that he spoke with us on May, on 10th May 2021. And I fully endorse the last point of that slide. Organization is structured to deliver the large program. This has been my pet theory for years together. When we were working together when Mr. Kakotkar was there and I was there, I said, open it up. And in fact, besides many other reasons, one of the reasons that nuclear has not received its due share in the equation, I mean, using the phrase which Dr. D.V. Kapoor mentioned, in the equation for energy planning or power planning is also the people within the organization. They have been very closed. They think others cannot touch it. So therefore, go beyond Nuclear Power Corporation. In one of the sessions right under India Energy Forum, months back, Director Technical of Nuclear Power Corporation was mentioning that I need budgetary support. I asked him, 35 years after Nuclear Power Corporation, you still need budgetary support. That tells the story how you will grow. So therefore, go beyond this and make the regulatory board tougher, regulatory process tougher, the norms tougher. That is okay, but open it up. Otherwise, I don't think we will be able. But I am very happy that we have programs that in 10 years' time we will be at least 3 to 4% of the total capacity that by that time India will have in power, as compared to less than 2% today. And some of the programs that are happening. I also quote one of the points which Dr. Kakotkar's slide that you have shown in your last presentation, mentioned that an equitable distribution of the nuclear fuel or nuclear material to different technologies for reactors. And there has to be a consensus, like we talked about SMR or other forms of reactors. There has to be consensus within the nuclear people, and that consensus has yet to arrive. I think, as I said, this has been a highly informative, highly educative webinar. Though it's a long one, but unless it is a long one, we will not learn. For me, it really has been a great learning process, and some of the questions that have been raised by people very nicely addressed by and responded to by you. Both the speakers, thank you very much. Thanks a lot.